It is a beautiful weekend, and this weekend marks the 25th anniversary of the American Driving Society, and they're gathered here in Acadia National Park at Wildwood Stables to celebrate. There are 57 miles of carriage roads, the creation and gift of John D. Rockefeller, Jr. Today we're going to meet some of the people behind the scenes, and we're going to also show you how to hold the reins, with the help of Bill Long, who's sitting right next to me, and we'll give you tips on one of the emerging sports in America, driving carriages. Let's go, Kate. Allie? Straight on. Ed Winterberg, manager of Wildwood Stables here in Acadia National Park, is taking us on a private tour through the history of these carriage roads. Now, originally, way back, wasn't this whole park system the creation and the brainchild of a George Dorr?
George Dorr was a summer resident here, loved this landscape, and really was the lifelong, enthusiastic driving engine behind Acadia. He served as his first superintendent for 20 years, accepted a salary of $1 a month. Some people say that was a mistake because he set the standard for park service salaries ever since.
Oh, he did.
It was a very generous thing the man did, and he really, it would not have happened but for his persistence and his energy and his enthusiasm.
And what about Charles Eliot?
Charles Eliot, president of Harvard University, was the man who wrote literally the first letter to Mr. Dorr and said, if our generation doesn't do this, and this was the generation living on the edge of the 20th century, 1901, who will? So they started it. It was Charles Eliot's idea, George Dorr's enthusiasm, Mr. Rockefeller's patience, dedication, and wealth, and many others came together.
Yeah, I read somewhere that it took more than 5 years, really, to get the plan going after the conception of it.
It did, and what I think really was the spark was when in 1916 the automobile was allowed on the island, and they realized that the 20th century and technology was coming their way like everywhere else, and they had to accommodate it, but they wanted to give us a respite from it as well, and thus the carriage roads began.
Who donated most of the trails and the land?
Well, all of the trails, the carriage roads, were created, of course, by John D. Rockefeller, Jr. What he was trying to do was preserve not only this quaint, attractive tradition of horse and carriage riding in a park, but to provide access to the spectacular scenic beauty of Mount Desert Island. And Mr. Rockefeller simply wanted to leave a legacy and an example of how people can harmonize development with beautiful nature. And that was his lifelong goal for Acadia, and that's really what Acadia represents.
And there are how many miles?
There's 57 miles in the entire system, over about 15,000 acres.
Well, Ed, the restoration of these carriage roads began in what year?
It started around in the late 1980s. The roads were allowed to deteriorate after Mr. Rockefeller's death in 1960, and with the renaissance of some carriage experiences here, the Park Service, the friends of this park all got together and started what was a 10-year process, and we just finished it last year.
So Ed, but you're not from these parts.
I am a Kentucky lawyer. Carriage driving was a hobby of mine, and I first came here looking for a carriage. My dad had loved horses and carriages, and as a young boy delivered milk in Cincinnati with a horse and carriage in the 1920s, and so we were looking for some carriages. And one thing led to another, and sort of a midlife crisis. In 1986, I came up here to manage the park concession, and it's been a challenge and a lot of fun. Throughout the entire carriage road system, there are these vistas, and they're just these panoramic views, and the roads were intentionally designed to take you to those. You'll be driving through a beautiful wooded area, and then what we call our oohs and ahs, people stop and just literally say ooh and ah when they see
Well, when you read the book about the roads, and the title of that book is?
It's Mr. Rockefeller's Roads.
And that was written by his daughter?
By his granddaughter, Anne Rockefeller Roberts.
It is a wonderful book. I think everyone who's interested in the art of carriage driving, the sport of carriage driving, and in just the creation of this spectacular portion of America should really read that book. Because many people were employed during the Depression to build these roads.
Yeah, he kept 200 to 300 men working through that 27-year period to execute this, I call it an art project. It simply is nothing other than that. And that's part of why the project, Mr. Rockefeller's project here, took so long, is they were very carefully just trying to artistically blend the natural elements with the man-made elements. The stones on the side of the road are called coping stones. Actually, locally, they're called Mr. Rockefeller's teeth, you know, because they have a teeth type of affectation. Mr. Rockefeller had them placed. There's thousands upon thousands of them, and they were there to both protect and to provide a transition. It's of the natural native granite, the pink granite that's so noticeable all throughout Mount Desert Island.
Here we come to the great vista.
The view. This is one of the special vistas here at Acadia. It's a view of Seal Harbor, looking down
on Ox Hill, on my house.
Ox Hill, very beautiful. Just a classic Maine view up here.
Now, this system of roads has some spectacular bridges. How many are there?
There's 17 bridges throughout the 57-mile system that Mr. Rockefeller had planned and designed special for each site. The first one he built is a beautiful cobblestone bridge. There's Waterfall Bridge, Cliffside. They even have romantic and exciting names, and the names fit the places very aptly. Most of the bridges go over the streams and things, but this is a park where there's all types of access, and there's motor roads at places, and so he built the bridge to separate the carriage world from the motor world.
Well, Ed, I could explore these roads all day, but I have to get back. Holly Pulsifer is going to tell us about the comeback of carriage driving.